Why are we so afraid of not existence? So let's start off with the beginnings, like let's get back to the non-duality roots and start off with what non-duality is. So in the beginning there was nothing, and then God said, let there be everything, and then suddenly there was. So there is the assumption in all humanity, or nearly all of humanity, I'm sure there's some where it doesn't arise, but in most of humanity the assumption is that I exist and that I am experiencing this life, and I exist as something. So I exist as a name, I exist as a role, I exist as a person on this planet in relationship with all the other things. I am something, and this isn't questioned. This is the way that it is for most people. Just I am something, I am not you, I am me. And then they have many words to describe what that me is and who that me is. But when you begin to get into this subject, you begin to question who is experiencing. So there is an idea that there is this somebody that's experiencing, and this somebody is made up of feelings and thoughts and a variety of different things, titles. And the belief is that person is conscious of life. But if you are conscious, if there is a consciousness of that person, how can that be the experiencer? So if there is a consciousness of, say, my name is Harold and I am a professor, that is something that is experienced, it's not an experiencer. So if we split it up, but eventually we have to blur it all up, because you can never really directly speak the truth. So it's bizarre in a way, like I have to reduce and remove everything, and then I have to put everything back in, and then that's like maybe a slightly fair representation of non-duality. So you've got this person can be tissue, bogey tissue. See, so there's the body and there's the head, like, hello. So you've got this person that believes that I am a professor. So, hello, my name is Harold and I am a professor. But all of that is known, it's experienced. So something experiences that. You could say that is like the film playing on the screen, but if there's no one there to watch it, then it wouldn't ever happen. So there is something that's watching that person, which is saying, hello, my name is Harold and I am a professor. So somebody is or something is experiencing that. So anything that is experienced cannot be a singular experiencer. It cannot be a singular experiencer because something is watching that. There is like another layer to it. So there is this like, hello, my name is Harold and I am a professor. And that is known. There is a consciousness that knows that. This person, Harold, thinks that he is conscious. But if he was conscious, then how would he know himself? How would he know he was a professor? There needs to be something that's watching that. There needs to be some removal that can look at that Otherwise, how would it be known? So it's the same with consciousness, like true consciousness, big consciousness, cannot know itself because it is the watcher. So it can't watch itself. It can't like turn inside out and watch itself. Like some sort of jellyfish or something. It can't actually do that because then that wouldn't be the watcher, because who is watching itself? So you could look at it like this now with our eyes, like the eye, the physical eye. Look at the importance that I point to it. The physical eye can't look and look at itself. The same with the camera. The camera can't like turn in and look at itself. So I could put another camera there and then you could be like, oh, this is what the camera looks like. But the camera itself can't look at itself. So you could say like, there is a camera that's filming Harold, who is a professor. And Harold, who is the professor, I am Harold, I think that I am conscious. Nah. Das ist nicht richtig. Or stimmt. Das ist nicht stimmt. Do you say like that? Stimmt. Harold, it's like the camera believing that it can see itself. So, or it's like the camera filming a finger, and then the camera thinking, I am the finger. I am the finger. Boopy doopy 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 doop. Boopy doopy 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 doop. Why, what a mighty fine belly you have there. Oh, thank you. It is an amber belly. So that's quite profound, eh? How can something that's been watched be the watcher? So who is the watcher? Now this is like the best part, because that watcher is there no matter what. You bump your head, so Harold gets a bump, poof, and he forgets himself. He forgets that he grew up in Germany, that he has a mother with 3 legs, that he doesn't like sports. He forgot all that. He's just like, oh God, I got a terrible headache. I can't remember who I am. So he can't remember who he is on the human level. But yet, there is still a watching of it. So the watching is unaffected. So the watching is here no matter what. You could say, when I'm in deep sleep, there is no watching. But that's not true, but that's another subject. We can get onto that another time. So the watching is here. You never escape the watching. You never escape the watcher. You could try. The human can try. It's like, oh, let's run away from something being conscious of me. But then it would like fall into a black hole, because if you ran away from consciousness, then there would be nothing. There would be no perception of anything. You wouldn't even know that Harold's managed to run away from the watcher. So no matter where you go, no matter what you do, there is always this freaking watching. There is always this consciousness, and there's always this sense of I am, or existence. There's a sense of existence, which is the love, and then there is the empty looking, which is the wisdom. And these never are lost. They're here in every experience. And this is freedom. It's not Harold becoming enlightened. It's not Harold's personality becoming free. It is freedom beyond subject-object, beyond the person relating with the world. It is a deep freedom of knowing thyself. Knowing thyself. When you're listening to this talk, a lot of people will be in the person mode, and it's the person, Harold, looking for freedom. And person Harold doesn't know anything but itself and its own projections. So Harold is actually looking for freedom in his body-mind. So he's looking for freedom from narcissistic people. He's looking for freedom from having to go to work. He's looking for financial freedom. He's looking for emotional freedom. He's looking for personal enlightenment, where there will be no problems anymore and no pleasure or pain, whatever Harold believes freedom is. So Harold, and most people that are watching, not all the time, but a lot of the time, you're looking for freedom in yourself, because that's what the body-mind does, is it's always focused on itself and its own pleasure and pain. Oh, this is too hot, this is too cold, this is too salty, this is too small. And eventually she finds the right porridge. But we in non-duality are not talking about anything personal. We're not talking about fixing Harold, about Harold no longer having mother issues. Having oral fixation because he never passed infancy. Wanting to live in a hot country because he believes that will be better for his back. So we're not talking about Harold becoming something better. We are talking about that which is watching Harold, which is completely impersonal. It's got nothing to do with you. This cup is a little dangerous. It's got like a tiny little slit. And I keep missing. I don't normally do that, but maybe because it's a bit dark with the light and the black lid. So what is watching now? Now the watching is inseparable from what is. It is not separate from what's happening. So even though I've kind of implied that the watching is watching Harold and behind, the watching is non-located because it's not a thing. It's nothing and all things. So it's not a subject somewhere that can be found, so Harold can't turn around and look at it. But yet you can't escape looking at that watching. So right now, is there an outside to your consciousness? Is there an outside to this moment? Is there an outside to this existence? When I mean outside, like, is there something outside that? Or could we say that is all there ever is? And that's for you to investigate. So right now, is there an outside this sense of existence? Is there an outside of this looking? Is there an outside of this moment? Person is like, let me just scratch my little head. Yes, there is an outside to this moment. There are things happening outside of what's happening now. And that's what we think and what we believe. We didn't as babies. When we were really young as babies, we didn't think there was an outside of what was happening. It was something that grew in our brain, a functioning that grew in our brain, and a thinking pattern that grew. And that's like wonderful that we can imagine what's not here. But it's not actually our reality, and we have no proof that that is true. The only thing that we have proof for, if you could call that proof, is there is always what is. There is nothing else than what is. And this what is awake, and we don't know who or what that what is. Wow, if you're a native English speaker, that might have been a complex sentence. Even for an English speaker, that might have been complex. Even for myself, that was a bit complex. Lucky it's not me speaking, it just looks like me speaking. But that's when we begin to get into the whoopy doopy loopy stuff. So what happens is at like 2 or 3 years old, there is an identification with this character in time. Sorry, Harold got a little flattened there. There is an identification with the person in time. So rather than being this consciousness, like what you truly are, which is this moment, which is everything, non-separation, non-duality, you become a singularity, you become a person. And that always is terrifying to an extent. It's also exhilarating and joyful and brilliant and beautiful and miraculous and wondrous, but it's also terrifying. I am a single object with all these other objects, and the game is to beat the other objects and stay alive. The way I stay alive is by consuming these objects and using these objects to keep me warm. I mean, it's quite the computer game, eh? It's quite the animation. And there's so many details to it. Friendship, happiness, joy, feelings, emotions, depressions, trauma, jobs, work, money, social status, TV, addiction, art, stories, projections, illusions, personality disorders, mental health issues. There are so many complications: borders, passports, refugees, nationalities, wars, diseases, bacterias. Getting rid of the stuff that we put inside ourselves, medicines. I mean, what complications, eh? This game is like immensely complex as the person. So on one level, you're suddenly given this terror that wasn't there prior. This separation, the baby wasn't separate. The baby could have pain and pleasure, but the baby felt immensely safe in this. Beyond itself, it was connected to this. And then there is the separation. And then there is a going into this world of me in relationship to the other, and me being taught that happiness is a time-bound reality and that it's my job to become happy. Whereas I would say, like, true happiness or true freedom comes not from time, but from the timelessness. I'm not saying that that fixes all the personality quirks and all the relationship dynamics and money issues, but it connects you to freedom that never moves. So there's a remembering of something that is safe when all other things in this world are in movement. They're safe and unsafe. They're good and bad. They're truthful and dishonest. So what was the title again? I have to always bring it back to the title because that's the format of the talks. Why are we so afraid of not existing? So what happens at like 2 or 3 years old, we begin to identify with this person and we lose connection to our essence, which is this moment, which is this empty looking, which is all things and no things, and this sense of existence. And when we fixate on time and pleasure and pain, and this idea of achieving happiness, so our life begins to be more about time rather than this experience. It's more about the end destination than the journey. And that's not a conscious thing. It's something unconsciously that's happening. It's I suppose genetically something that happens, and then it's propagated by humans. No, not propagated. It's prophesized. You know, like put forward by other humans. So we get into this cult of being somebody. And we're kind of getting more fixated on it, most probably, you know, with all the social media on ourselves. And more importance on this illusory character that we are. And then with the social media, we're constantly like, what am I projecting? Like taking pictures of ourselves, looking at ourselves, and then putting it on the internet and sharing it and people validating it. So there's this like growth in a sense of self and the belief that that is who you are. So when that happens and there is a cutting off from something truer of what you are, it's like anything. It's like if you believed being beautiful was your freedom, then there would be the terror of losing the beauty. So if you believe being yourself is the freedom, that you are going to arrive at happiness one day, and that everything is dependent on you, then there'll be a terror of losing yourself. I know that sounds odd. A terror of losing yourself. But it does become a terror of losing yourself. Like right now, what does it feel like? The imagination of you not existing, of you not carrying on, of death. And then there is a terror. Because that person, and it's in the person's world, that person doesn't want to lose all the things that it's attached to, which is understandable. It's afraid of not having them anymore. It's afraid of not being, and it's afraid of this unknown. Like, what will I be if I'm not here? And it's all in that personal, it's all in Harold's world. There he is. It's all in Harold's world. It's not in the consciousness world. Like this moment doesn't care about you dying or not dying, not in a negative way, but this moment is who you truly are, is complete, and it's not got a objective or perspective on whether the human lives or dies. It loves it either way. It embraces it either way. So your essence is free from care. But the person is like concerned about this. Concerned about not existing. And so it tries to just lock that away somewhere. That terror. And there's other difficulties with it that get complex because we of trauma and PTSD and all these types of things, which can happen. So you go into a situation, your body gets hyperly aroused and it can get stuck in that, and then there can be a touching on that and that gets sparked again. But we're not really talking about that. That's like another subject. We're talking about this intrinsic fear of death that everybody has. Everybody has it. The fear of not knowing what you will be, even though there is death happening all the time. Like you the illusory you, the Harold character, is kind of dying to itself all the time because everything is expanding, everything is evolving. So this illusory you is evolving to be something new. Always. It's never the same. It's never what you've seen before. The same with other people. You'll love it every time you see them. If you take out non-duality just on the perspective of life and what we know about the movement of life and science and atoms and evolution, your partner is evolving. Even though they might have like particular habits and ways of being, just like a tree has a particular habit and way of being and way of looking, they're subtly changing to their environment all the time. That's the beauty of evolution, isn't this influence? And humans are rapidly changing. It's fantastic. It's magical, the evolution of the human. So I would say, sorry Harold, your head is kind of my tissue. I would say that the fear of death on the human level, if you take out trauma and the associations, is the fear of not knowing who you'll be, not knowing where you'll be, and losing all the things you know and love and feel make up you. And that's all understandable on the human level. It's not really about getting rid of all those things, and the human's always going to have this desire to live and not to lay down and be eaten by all other elements. But it's remembering that in you which does not die. So right now there is the timeless, the spaceless, this empty looking that will never ever leave. That will always be there no matter what. Even when this form dies, it will be there. So if you experience someone that dies, their form dies, their name dies, their character dies, but that which was looking out of their eyes is still the same looking that's here right now. It can never be lost. So yeah, you can lose the form, but you can't lose the essence. It's the same with, like, if you looked at it like from an atom perspective. So this cup, so if this cup gets smashed and burnt and all these things, it will change into something else. But it's still the same amount of atoms. From my understanding, you can't make them disappear, or it's the same amount of energy. It's just the form in which it's taking now, in which it's currently taking, has gone. And when that's perceived and deeply known, that does change the human perspective. On the human level, it more than likely will make the human more free. But the human, like, it's like, you know, when I was younger, I used to have this, like, what is that word? Samisa, that word, you know, when you jump off the cliff. I thought that the human had to be absent of all fear, but it's not really like that. The human has to have human stuff. Otherwise it wouldn't stay together. It would transform into something else. And part of being alive, like if you look at all mammals, they have fear, because if they didn't have fear, then they'd get gobbled up by another. Isn't that what happened to the Kiwis when the Europeans came and brought cats to the island? The Kiwis didn't run away from the cats, which is a disaster, because they'd never experienced a mammal that could eat them before. It's really a magical subject. Okay, so now we can go to questions. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. So Lisa Cairns 12. And if you have a question, please write it. But if you want to call in, call me and don't put anything else, and I will call you when I'm ready. Don't just call in because it's too much for me to handle. And we're out of time, believe it or not. I am in front of you. It's cool, eh?